Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Max Velocity weather forecast. And in today's forecast, we'll be talking about a massive severe weather outbreak, one of the biggest outbreaks that we've seen in weeks, that'll be impacting parts of the United States later today and potentially throughout the entire day. I'll give you the latest breakdown on everything that you need to know in this forecast, but let's first begin with what's happening across the United States today. We're first going to begin with the Southeast United States. This is the hot spot for significant severe weather today. We already have a lot of convection boiling. You'll notice there is a ton of showers and storms. Any of those red colors is representing very high cloud tops on the infrared imagery, basically indicating very cold cloud tops. And overall, we are seeing some pretty hefty convection, a lot of damaging wind and hail potential this morning. We're going to see this really increase rapidly throughout the afternoon. I'm going to break down the entire thing for you in just a moment. Further off to the north, we do have a low pressure system spinning in the northeast, bringing some showers, but not really any severe weather up there, just rain for the most part. For the northern United States, we do have a high pressure system that is moving into that region. Overall, not really a whole lot of activity is expected there. But again, we are really mostly focused here on the Southeast United States in this forecast because it's going to get very wild later today. Now, in terms of the low-level jet, this is what indicates rotation in the lower levels with supercells. We have a fairly strong low-level jet today. Very abnormal, by the way, for June specifically. We usually don't see significant severe weather events like this in the Southeast United States. It just doesn't happen. We don't usually have a jet stream that allows for it. But sometimes during El Nino, which we're in right now, it sometimes does allow for some events like this. But again, this is a fairly rare event that we're going to be seeing today. Now, in terms of low-level jet, again, it is going to be fairly strong today. We are watching for a low-level jet between 50 to 55 knots potentially during the afternoon and evening. That could really spark up that tornado risk, especially across areas like Alabama, Mississippi, and Georgia. That is the hot spot today for severe weather. And you'll notice a low-level jet, even with the storms tonight, upwards of 90 knots. That's insane, by the way, but that'll be embedded in some thunderstorms. So there will be definitely some high winds. A potential derecho will definitely exist, and that will extend again from Mississippi back through Georgia and potentially even into northern Florida. One other thing before I show you the risk for today, the tornado parameter, very important ingredient here today, kind of gives us an idea at least of what the tornado risk will be in some areas. And throughout the morning, it's still fairly up there. I mean, we're looking at values between 5 to 10 in some areas. That is definitely going to be a medium risk across areas like Alabama and Mississippi, potentially even into Georgia. And then once we go into the later afternoon, this threat just continues. You'll notice the tornado risk is a bit higher along the southern side here of the Southeast United States. So closer to Georgia, southern Alabama, and as well as southern Mississippi, but we might still see an isolated tornado elsewhere. But again, it is going to be very important that you stay weather aware today and have multiple ways to receive alerts, because look at this. We do have a moderate risk of severe weather across the Southeast United States. You'll notice that does include areas from northeast Louisiana back through Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. And then outside of that, we have a fairly large enhanced risk of severe weather. It extends from Texas, which is quite crazy, all the way to South Carolina. One of the longest enhanced risks of severe weather I've seen in quite some time. And by the way, just a little mention, there's actually a marginal threat up into New England today, which is, again, kind of rare as well. But in terms of the threats, we do have a very high damaging wind potential. You'll notice that there is a 45% chance within a 25-mile radius of damaging winds in that purple/pink shaded region. This is where we have a greatest concern for a threat for a derecho. A derecho is a elongated line of storms that brings damaging winds. This could very well happen across this area. We could be talking about damaging winds upwards of 80 to maybe even 90 miles per hour in some areas. Now, not everybody will see that, only a few isolated locations, but we very well could see a very significant threat there. So make sure that you are protecting your trampolines. And also, the trampoline meter is at the highest level that we've ever issued here on the Max Velocity channel. It's at a gone forever stage. That is all because that we could see some very significant damaging winds here across the southeast today. For the large hail potential from the southern plains, there's actually a greater large hail potential throughout the afternoon. That is because there's going to be a bit higher of lapse rates. That's going to increase basically the hail threat here, and as well some stronger updrafts and stronger upper level winds. And again, that is a very big concern. We could see 2-inch diameter hail or greater, especially across that hatched area that does go from Mississippi back through Texas. In terms of the hail threat in the southeast, not too much different here, but we do have a hail potential primarily where that derecho threat is. That's going to be for Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. So make sure again that you are protecting your vehicles today. And also for the tornado risk, we could see a couple strong tornadoes today. That would primarily be across areas in central and southern Alabama, back through western and southwest Georgia. So have a tornado action plan in place in case there are any tornadoes today. Make sure you have your weather radios ready. If you don't already have one, you might want to consider getting one in the future. Now let's break down the timing. We're going to go state by state from west to east. So we're beginning with Texas for today. There will be some showers and storms throughout the day. You'll notice around 1 o'clock, that is when some storms will explode. We very well could see some significant hail and damaging winds out of that. You'll notice going in closer to the late afternoon, there could be another round of storms in eastern parts of North Texas. This is primarily for large hail. And then once we go through the evening and overnight hours, that is when things should dry out and we should be done with severe weather in North Texas for the foreseeable future. Now, for those in Louisiana is kind of in an interesting spot here. You might see some storms, but you might not. You'll notice in northern Louisiana, that is where that storm activity is primarily going to be located later this afternoon near Monroe around 5 to 6 o'clock. Then that will eventually collapse into parts of Mississippi and as well as into Alabama. That is where that derecho potential does exist. And then overnight, maybe another passing storm. But overall, severe weather in Louisiana looks to be a low chance for right now. For those in Arkansas, we could see some substantial severe weather here. It just depends on if any of these discrete cells get going. You'll notice by 1 o'clock, the HRR model does indicate a discrete supercell. That means that we could very well see an increased damaging wind and hail threat and possibly even an isolated tornado. Once we go into the late afternoon and evening, storms do continue. You'll notice there will still be some storms out there. A lot of these, though, are primarily going to be hail producers. And then once we go into the late evening and overnight hours, showers and storms do clear out there. Now, the big talk, again, is Alabama and Mississippi. Let's break down these states very closely for you. As we go throughout the afternoon, there will be multiple rounds of showers and storms. That have already been a few this morning. There will be more this afternoon. So this is 1 o'clock. We'll have some showers and storms out there. Some of these down here in southern Alabama will mainly be hail and damaging winds, but I can't rule out an isolated tornado out of these. Maybe even a potential for a strong tornado will exist. You'll notice that other area, this is going to be really an area to watch here. That'll be more of a damaging wind potential for those in central and northern Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. Then going through the afternoon, pretty much a very disorganized almost cluster of storms will start collapsing throughout Alabama and Georgia. But notice back out here to the north and west, closer to Mississippi, as well as southeast Arkansas. And then going through the evening, you'll notice by 7 o'clock, we have a very strong line of storms. This will be primarily what we're watching for significant damaging wind potential. And this will start collapsing to the south and east with very high damaging winds. Again, some large hail. I don't really foresee much of a tornado threat out of this since it's more of a line of storms collapsing north to south, but we might see an isolated tornado in there. And then once we go through 10 to 11 o'clock, that moves out. More storms are possible overnight as well. The storms just really don't end here. So if you are in the path of these storms, have multiple ways to receive alerts. In addition to that, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. We'll keep you updated with any new updates as well. For those in the southeast United States, in particular Georgia and South Carolina, there will again be multiple rounds of showers and storms here. You'll notice around 4 to 5 o'clock, messy area of storms, but this will be mainly damaging winds and hail across these areas. Once we go closer to 6 to 7 o'clock, a collapsing line of storms will start to really organize itself in parts of central and southern Georgia and southern North Carolina. And then by the evening and even into the overnight hours, storms will start to clear out. And then we might see another round of storms briefly during the overnight hours in southeast Georgia. And then eventually going into tomorrow morning, overall things do look a little drier for those in the southeast United States, excluding southern Georgia. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe down below and like the video. This forecast is brought to you by Platinum Contracting.